you'll be pleased to know that we're probably hurtling at a startling rate towards some sort of bankruptcy or else swinging cuts, which the Labour Party aren't really in the mood to do. Their backbenchers will never allow it to happen. So that means Ms Reeves is going to come and ransack us, the hard-working taxpayers of this country, for even more money to pay for Ed Zero to buy wimwoms and solar panels from China, and to obviously stick a load of randos who've come over on boats in four-star hotels. Hurrah! Life is great in Britain, isn't it? Well, let's find out quite how dire our economics are by speaking to Justin Urquhart-Stewart. Hello there, Justin.
Hello, Alex. Nice to speak to you.
Nice to speak to you. Now, I've been informed that you don't have a cat around because you're on holiday.
But I'm not supposed to be on holiday. I was giving you a talk here. I'm in Jersey at the moment, and yes, cat-free zone at the moment. They're waiting for me to return. I don't think I fed them.
Oh, what? I hope your muggies are at least being looked after, or else mousing well.
Yeah.
Good, good. Right, they're doing hard work, and there's no doubt, actually, come September, because they're hard-working moggies, Rachel Reeves is going to want to tax them.
Oh, there's nothing else she can have a go at, I suppose, to have a cat tax. But look, at the past week, remember, we had people saying that actually we might even have a tax on savings. We've been encouraging people to save for years, but then you might have to do that. Why? Well, because actually they've frozen our allowances so many years that actually people find that their income, albeit rather mean income, from their savings they've worked over the years, and often these are people not fabulously wealthy. They've done what they should be doing, saving for their old age and for the pension, and then they find themselves in a position they pay more tax. It is ridiculous. Actually, what we do know is if you encourage the economy to actually then give people more confidence, there's something called the Laffer curve, which is anything over 50% of your income where it goes in tax, then actually people work really, really hard actually to not pay tax. Anything below that, and people will sort of accept it and are quite happy to pay tax. Not happy, but they'll go along with it. If you overtax it, you actually going to find yourself in a position where it's not just a brake on the economy, you'll break the economy.
Indeed. I mean, actually, looking at the clock, I'm in the tax-paying part of the show now, aren't I? I always like to say when it gets to about 11:30, I'm working hard in this studio to make sure somebody wants to sexually assault me has a lovely hotel room in the Britannia in Canary Wharf, and I hope they're thoroughly enjoying all of my hard work on their behalf so they can live a better life. But something
You'll have your lovely time in Gloucestershire. It's nice, lovely and green there. I suspect if you go to the Prime Minister's office at the moment, all you'll find there is probably advanced mould. There's no sign of all this green anywhere.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, where I now live is surrounded by cows, for now, until Ed Zero gets his mitts on those fields. But for now, at least, my neighbours are bovines, which is really nice. Now, something that wasn't widely reported in the press was a little tidbit from the IMF. And the IMF said to the UK along the lines of, look, you're not doing well, are you? Things aren't looking pretty good for the UK economy, so you're either going to have to increase tax, scrap the NHS, but by the way, well done on the welfare cuts. Now, this was before the welfare cuts didn't actually pass through government, so one assumes that the call to either scrap the NHS, which ain't going to happen, is it? Although it does seem to be scrapping itself by the fact nobody can get an appointment, that we're kind of left with one choice, which is she's going to have to come after some sort of tax on us.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you've been talking about the IMF. Mrs. Urquhart-Stewart, when we had the election, and she's a financial journalist, and turned around and said, I wonder how long it's going to be when they're going to start talking about possibly having to apply to the IMF again. It was almost laughable at that stage. But actually, over the past few months, yes, that's where we are heading. So the position they've got to try and do now is get the economy growing. And you don't do that just by borrowing and spending more. First of all, what you can do is actually get some confidence back in the economy. There's no shortage of money. There is loads of money around. What we haven't got is proper plumbing, because the government keeps interfering with it, to actually be sure that there are incentives for that money to be invested in our nation, and also help the major employer in our country, which is small companies. We set up more businesses in this country than France and Germany, but we're very bad at actually financing them to grow. So we have all sorts of incentive schemes like enterprise investment schemes, which cost the government nothing because they're guarantees. So only if things go wrong, well, they have to pay some money up for it. We could then do that regionally as well, as we used to do. We used to have I thought it was 45 stock exchanges in this country. You don't need many more silly gits and red braces. But actually, we don't even have a proper stock exchange at the moment. Primary purpose of that is to raise capital for business in the most cost-effective manner possible. And that's not what we're doing. We've got some great areas of positive potential growth in terms of our tech hubs. Go to the universities, you'll see their tech centres. They've all got nicknames like Silicon Glen, Silicon Fen, Silicon Gorge, Silicon Implant. No, that's not right. But all these other ones there, and they breed, and they spin out sub businesses. But unfortunately, our dear colleagues in America then come over and buy them, and so we lose those ones. So the key word to this is confidence. We've got the money now. Make sure actually the government actually doesn't interfere with it. Give people the incentives by way of tax breaks actually to put money in. Don't have a wealth tax. Make sure you've got a method of actually creating more wealth. Then you can tax it when you've created the wealth, not the other way around.
Yeah, love the millionaires. Don't hate them and drive them out. Invite them in their droves.
Absolutely, and they come in, and the system we had before, whatever political party you're with, you actually saw more wealth being created and more wealth actually then being spent, and also not all in the southeast. A lot of these tech centres are all over the place, and sometimes the most unlikely bits where you think, surely they haven't got a tech centre there. But some really exciting areas. I've seen developments in Belfast there, and new businesses. But yes, so there are probably about 60 or 70 of these hubs I'd point out. Give them the regional incentives there. Again, guarantees, no money. And it's amazing how that will change people's attitudes. A bit of confidence to have the courage to say, I'm going to set up a business and I'm going to actually try and employ some people and we're going to make some money. It'll be hard work doing so. And when we make money, heaven forbid, people are earning money, so they pay tax on VAT and also corporation tax, which frankly should be reduced anyway. But what we can do here is actually make it an encouraging economy where people actually want to participate in it.
Problem is, though, that is obviously what we should be doing. We can shout about it until the cows come home to Alex's nearby fields. But that's not really in the Labour Party's DNA. And I can't imagine for any minute that Rachel Reeves is actually going to announce that. I think I was listening to something the other day and I heard good old Gordon Brown, him of the weird side mouth breathing fame, came up with some sort of brilliant idea to tax something really weird so that they can actually lift the cap on two-child benefit. And you think, really? We want to just start lobbing out more benefits, do we? I don't think we're in a position where we can do that.
No. And so what you've got to be able to do is go to the hot spots that we've already got and you encourage them to do so. Now, if you can do that therefore you'll find more tax money coming. But also, bear in mind, we've got all this debt we've got. If you look at the people who actually own the debt, a third of our government debt is owned by us or by the British government, because of what we had with when we had the getting us out of the banking crisis, and we had the method of being able to have further investment by the Treasury, effectively by issuing gilts and then actually being bought in. So the government effectively now gets about £23 billion a year in terms of dividend coupons from itself to itself. You couldn't make this up, could you? But that's the position we find ourselves in. So actually, if you actually cut out the debt we actually owe and the debt we actually owned in terms of, because it's in government name, you actually cut off an awful lot of people saying you borrowed too much. You could bring that level of borrowing.
So we could
down
essentially
quickly.
We could just write off a third of our debt because it's debt that we owe to ourselves.
Yeah, well, in theory, yes, you can. Now, you wouldn't want to scare the horses and do that immediately. But over time, yes, that's what you do. Because you imagine two sides of the balance sheet. I owe this amount of money and I've got an asset over here. Actually, well, the reason I can actually now probably go and borrow some more because I've got a good asset. And so you can actually reduce your costs there. So I think actually, what actually she should be doing, she's got one chance, I think, and one more bullet left. It was the old British economist, John Maynard Keynes, who at the end of the Second World War, where we really were in deep trouble with debt with that, and the Americans weren't being wildly helpful. But his phrase was, when the facts change, I change. What are you going to do? So she could actually turn around now and say, actually, the facts have changed. Things are, since we took over, it hasn't been a success. But actually, therefore, we're going to have to change policies now. And yes, you're going to choose them going against the manifesto. But that's her way out. That's the best excuse she's got. Now, once you've done that, then you can actually start being creative over your taxation. Why don't you create an incentive for it? For example, actually, if you're going to pay more tax, we'll give you X percentage off your inheritance tax for the rest of your family. Being able to do that, so it turns a negative into a positive. You're not giving away free money. What you're doing, though, is those who can participate, and we're recognising them in terms of some future award.
Now, most people, when they're speculating, if they're trading or they're, doing stuff in the City of London that I don't understand because it involves numbers and spreadsheets and big screens with even more numbers on, they try and predict what's going to happen in order to bet on markets. You've come up with some very good policy ideas, things that Rachel Reeves could do in September, which could start to alleviate some of the pain and potentially even start pointing the ship in the right direction. But if you were to be investing in UK PLC, what percentage chance would you put on the fact that Rachel Reeves is actually going to do something dramatically different?
Yeah, right. Well, two things there. First of all, should you invest in UK PLC? The answer is yes, because actually when you're investing, it's not just a matter of your stocks and shares going up or down, hopefully up. Actually, the real benefit are the compounding of dividends over time. And you do that, over 10, 20, 30 years as if you're doing a pension. That's how you grow your wealth. If you actually want to do it short term, well, that's why we have horse racing. And go and have a flutter that way, and you'll lose your money quite quickly doing so. Now, will she actually then have the courage to be able to say, right, that's gone wrong, the facts have changed, now I'm going to come up with something which is going to be acceptable to the city, and not just the city with people with red braces, but people who are doing the investing internationally as well as domestically, and be able to create that vital word of confidence. So now we can actually have a target. What she's got to do is balance the books in terms of the amount of money coming in, going out. Don't worry about the interest. That can be covered in due course. And the last Tory, but they go back to the days of the coalition. That's what they said they were going to do. And they did. They shouldn't have used the word austerity because it's got all sorts of connotations. But over the period during that time, they never actually blew their horn about it. They did balance the books. That's without the interest on the debt. You add that to it, it's not quite as pretty. So we can do it. We're making still a lot of stuff. There are three numbers worth remembering. 6, with the world's 6th largest economy. 9, manufacturing. We don't do manufacturing anymore. Yes, we do. We're the world's 9th largest manufacturer. Exports. Well, we used to do exports, but not so much. Yes, we do. We're the 15th largest exporter in the world. We must be doing something right here. And so what you need to do then is give the confidence that actually the economy will be recovering. And then whether it's overseas investors or domestic investors say, yes, I will be investing, not betting all on one company or anything like that, but in the economy overall, because we have the ability to be able to develop. Support Britain, not by way of a charity, by actually making sure the money in your pension schemes and things like that goes to those growth areas that we need. Now also go back to the regions and you have to say to the regions, don't worry about everything being centralised in London because they overcharge for everything. Start introducing regional investment bonds for their infrastructure. For instance, Newcastle, they've been trying to actually have a dual carriageway right the way across to Carlisle and then over to the Ferris Gate to Ireland. And you get halfway along Hadrian's Wall, it turns into single file. These things are vital. Don't wait for the government to do it because they won't do it. Do it locally and people will invest in it locally and they get some returns for it. And what happens? The economy improves it as well.
I love the fact, actually, if you drive from Carlisle to Newcastle, which I've done many times before, you get halfway across, and when they were building that road, there's a farmer's house in the middle of it because he's like, I'm not moving. And it goes either side of the house. It's brilliant. It's so stubborn and British. But anyway, there we have it. It's always great speaking to you, Justin. You're always so positive. You have the solutions to many of our problems. Can you just do me a favour? When you come back from Jersey, make your way straight to Downing Street, would you? Pin Rachel Reeves into a corner and go, now listen here, love. I can save your job. This is how, because then she might actually prick her ears up. Justin Urquhart-Stewart, thank you ever so much. Glorious speaking to you as per usual.